It's hard to deny that President Trump definitely has made a lasting impact wherever he's gone on his whistle-stop tour of Europe. If you're one of his supporters, then you'll probably be saying that he's been a great leader who's been sticking it to all the evil globalists with his never-ending truth bombs. However, his critics claim that he's been incompetent and embarrassment to the country, saying one thing one day and then completely contradicting it with what he says the next, and that's when he's not just flat out lying. In this fact check, I'll be looking at how many of Trump's statements are true, and how many of them are just bald-faced lies. The first claim was made at the Brussels NATO summit earlier this month. It was that European countries do not spend enough of their GDP on defense. It's true, a significant number of NATO members do not spend the required percentage of 2% of defense. It's just a fact. The Daily Mirror reports that member countries should spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense, and only 4 countries spend that much in 2013. Estonia, Greece, the USA, and the UK. There is a noticeable imbalance between US spending and that of its allies. US and British government officials have repeatedly complained about this. Unfortunately, however, when it comes to the US's own spending on defense, Trump falls short in terms of telling the truth. The next claim that I'm going to be looking at is the claim that many NATO countries owe the US money because the US has had to pay for them. This is entirely false. PolitiFact reports that the overall reason why this is not true is because the US does not spend defense into an overall NATO kitty. That is according to a member of the Tato Institute. They spend their money on defense, and that is what NATO requires. They do not owe any money to NATO or its other members. Moving on to statements that Donald Trump has made specifically about affairs going on in Europe, he has said many times over his presidency about the changing culture in Europe and the rise in crime, which has been caused, as he claims, by open-door migration policies, and he doubled down on those claims when he was stood next to Theresa May at Chequers. He has said in the past, and said that again, loud and clear he said, that crime in Germany is way up. This has been proven time and time again to be false. According to the New York Times' fact checker, crime statistics for 2017 showed the lowest level of crime in Germany in 25 years, according to figures released in May by the Federal Criminal Office. Although there have been terrorist attacks by people aligned with the Islamic State, as well as high-profile murders and assaults by migrant men, the statistics refute Mr. Trump's suggestion because of the fact that not only was the overall crime rate down 5.1% over the previous year, violent crime was down 2.4% and property theft was down an 11.8%. Another statement that he made before he was about to travel to the United Kingdom about what was going on in the United Kingdom is that the UK is in somewhat turmoil. Now, I know that there is an element of subjectivity to this. Most people aware of what is going on would have to admit that yes, this country is in a state of Brexit-induced political turmoil. My last video actually was about this, and in case you haven't watched it, here's a short clip of that video. And with all of this madness happening, Theresa May has suggested that Parliament go on an early recess, an early summer break for 7 weeks, which a lot of people are saying is because she wants to avoid there being a vote of no confidence and there being a leadership challenge. Many people are saying that the Brexit plan is dead in the water. I have to agree based off of all of the facts that I've laid out. So now the best thing Theresa May thinks they should do is for the government to go on holiday. This is the absolute state of Brexit right now. I'm wondering if maybe I should move to Australia or something, because I'm genuinely worried about what's happening with Brexit at the moment. When they come back in September, they'll have less than 6 months to actually start negotiating with the EU how they're going to leave. It's been 16 months, and the government only seems to be approaching finishing negotiating with itself. What on earth is going on? So, even whether or not it was disrespectful to the government of this country, just because we don't like Donald Trump, we can't just suddenly turn around and say, "How dare you, Mr. President? We're doing fine, thank you very much." We're in turmoil. That's just true. Now, the next Trump statement that I'm going to talk about is related to the summit that he held with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. It was a statement that he made after he got back from that summit. Now, I'm sure you can all guess what it is that I'm talking about, so I'm just going to play the clip.
I realize that there is a need for some clarification. It should have been obvious. I thought it would be obvious, but I would like to clarify just in case it wasn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. Sort of a double negative.
Oh, bullshit! How stupid do you think the people of your United States of America are? You really think that what we all thought you meant to say was a clumsily put statement which completely contradicts everything that you've said about Russia and Russian meddling in the past? The fact is that President Trump is, like it or not, an elected president. And if he is an elected president, he wants nothing more than for people to consider him as a legitimately elected president. And he isn't legitimately elected if Russia meddled in the election to help him win. So that is why he has never ever called out Russia and their meddling in the past. And that's why he said on many different occasions that Mueller's probe into his collusion with Russia is a complete witch hunt. So even though it's not possible to say that this is completely true or completely false, it is definitely a massive U-turn on the part of the Trump administration. Snopes outlines how much of a U-turn it is, not only by reporting that Trump said that I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place, but also, moments earlier, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell issued a public reassurance to US allies that European countries are our friends and the Russians are not. So we definitely must not underestimate how much of a big backtrack this is from the Trump administration. Another important President Trump statement to look at is one that he made in the Helsinki summit, stood next to Russian President Vladimir Putin at the stage. He was asked about Russia meddling in the election by a reporter, and then he descended into the usual Trump-style whataboutery that him and many of his supporters do a lot of the time, and that was going into talking about Hillary Clinton's emails once again. And when he did that, he did tell another porcupine. He talked about how the servers of Pakistani gentlemen that worked on the DNC were missing, when that is not true, as once again pointed out PolitiFact that Trump said that the servers of the Pakistani gentlemen that worked on the DNC are missing, but they were never missing. The DNC provided the FBI with a copy of their server rather than the original hardware, and Comey testified that the evidence was an appropriate substitute. So, they never were missing. That statement is false. So Donald Trump's record on his first European tour as president is definitely very mixed when it comes to telling the truth, with indisputable evidence of treason to America and its intelligence agencies, a complete lack of understanding of how international agreements work, and very divisive statements about European affairs. It's very difficult to view Trump's tour of Europe as anything that would resemble a success. You've been listening to Truth Media. Subscribe for more and I'll be back here soon.